last line again, Charlotte, thank you for bringing this book into English and so many others. Thank you so much.
I would like to thank the judges of the French-American Foundation Translation Prize for choosing my translation of Mathias and The Deserters. Can you hear me? Is that okay? Should I stand back? Sorry. I was honored to be a finalist among such distinguished translators as Kate Briggs, Alex Neri, Mark Palazzati, and Aidan Rooney. The French-American Foundation Translation Prize is one of the few prizes judged by a panel of one's peers, all of whom can read the original French. This makes winning a prize that much more meaningful, knowing one's work is appreciated and acknowledged by those truly qualified to judge it. As we translators are only too well aware, not everyone in the literary community is always so discerning. Even now, reviews might overlook our translations. For example, recently there was a feature article in a major review about Mathias Énard, one of the main authors I translate, which made no mention of me whatsoever, or of any of the English translations. I discovered Énard when I read an excerpt from Zone, a 517-page novel written in a single sentence, in the French Publishers magazine, brought it to the attention of Open Letter to publish it, and won an NEA grant to translate it. So I find this omission somewhat disappointing, though alas not unusual. When I pointed it out to the author of the review, he replied, "Please forgive the oversight." Having my 20-year project dismissed as an oversight is the very tendency that we as translators are trying to correct. That's one of the reasons why I'm so grateful for this award, especially since working as a translator can be a lonely job. A recognition like this reminds you that you're part of a community and that your work matters. I used to think that not having the translator's name on the cover of the book wasn't that important, but in this age of AI translation, when Nobel Prize winners are using AI to translate their books, I think it's more important than ever to include the translator's name, as well as the author's, on every translated book. I think one of the reasons I used to accept the omission was that I didn't think my work was as important as the author's, but the more I translate, the more I realize how crucially important a good translation is. A novel can be wonderfully written in the original language, but a complete failure in a bad translation. Translators are writers, first and foremost, as well as copy editors, proofreaders, and fact-checkers. To be a good translator is to be a good writer above all, especially with an author like Énard, for whom rhythm and cadence are so important. Translating Énard is sometimes similar to translating poetry, since rhythm, alliteration, and metaphor are such featured elements. There's also a good deal of research to be done, especially in a book like The Deserters, which focuses on scholarship and mathematics. In a sense, a good translator strives for invisibility. If a reader can be immersed in the text and forget the text as a translation, it is due to the translator's artistry. Having my name left out of that article made me realize how grateful I am to so many different translators whose names were not left out, for making books available to me that I could never read in the original. I want to take this opportunity to mention them and to express my heartfelt gratitude to them and their work. Jane Starr Untermeyer for her masterful translation of Hermann Brock's The Death of Virgil, and Leah Bell for her hilarious translation of E.T.A. Hoffmann's The Life and Opinions of Tomcat Murr, H.T. Lowe Porter for her translation of Thomas Mann's Dr. Faustus, and finally Arthur Golding for his beautiful translation of Ovid's Metamorphoses in 1567, nicknamed Shakespeare's Ovid, since it's the one Shakespeare read and borrowed from his plays. And of course, C.K. Scott Moncrief for his epochal translation of Proust, which helped me immensely when I was translating Volume 2 of The Search for Oxford University Press. Without these books, without these translations, I would not be the person or the translator I am today. I would also like to thank my longtime friend and mentor, the late Pierre Jaurès, poet and translator of Paul Celan, for his support all these years. I owe my career to Pierre, and I'm so grateful for his belief in me as a young translator. It was thanks to him that I published my first translation, the The Work of Fire by Maurice Blanchot. I would also like to thank my husband, the poet Robert Kelly, for his editing acumen and expert advice on all my translations. He helped me believe translation was a viable and beneficial career. Finally, I would like to thank the novelist and composer John Darnielle of The Mountain Goats for his encouragement these many years, and for writing my all-time favorite blurb, quote, "We are all lucky to be alive and reading in a time when Charlotte Mandel was translating Mathias Énard." Back in 2017, Mathias Énard came to read from Compass at Bard College. When someone in the audience complimented the beautiful language of the novel, Mathias pointed to me and said, "All those words are hers." I'm grateful to him for saying that, and for allowing me to be his translator and collaborator for almost 20 years now. I'm also grateful to our publishers, Fitzcarraldo in the UK and New Directions in the US, for their support and friendship over the years, especially the great Barbara Epler of New Directions and my editor, Tynan Kogani. I feel proud to be a translator who works with such wonderful people and publishers. Thank you. I was also asked to read an excerpt, so it's very short. This is from The Deserters. The narrator is a woman named Irina, who is the daughter of a famous mathematician named Paul Hodeberg. There was a conference about his work on a riverboat in Berlin, and the conference was canceled because it happened right on 9/11. So now she's in the part that I'm going to read, she's in an inn called the White Owl, after the conference has been canceled. After a glass of wine, I was overcome with a slight dizziness. The tension accumulated in the afternoon was escaping from me in whirling spirals. Jürgen Thiele was looking at me and smiling. Alma, too, had a benevolent look. The Ionian columns in the dining room, the oriental carpets, the big curved bay window, looking out onto the garden's darkness, pierced between shadows by a reflection of the moon on the lake, all seemed so far from the words inn or white owl, that even if that nocturnal raptor, the color of snow, had landed at that instant on Jürgen Thiele's shoulder, none of us would have thought it might be the mascot of the place. Alma Sedic was a little intimidated. Thiele was bombarding her with questions about her impressions of this funereal day. I was observing the architectonic details, the elements of decor that Schinkel had used to give this room an aspect at once hieratic and timeless, rigid in its fluidity. Everything fled to the rotunda in the garden. Everything fled. There was not a single right angle to keep the building from rushing outside. The columns, the elliptical obsidials they demarcated, every shape was straining toward the lake. And I imagined that a couple dancing a waltz would have been guided by the room's architecture, without realizing it, toward the rotunda in front of the big bay window. Or, if the window had been open, toward the festooned terrace, which was a promontory highlighting the crinoline gowns and brocaded uniforms in the light of the lake. Overcome by drunkenness and a kind of imaginary dance, my eyes were spinning around the dining room of the White Owl, and had completely stopped paying attention to the conversation. I was becoming liquefied. I was dissolving into a liquid as thick as the carpet. I was far away. A couple of dancers were whirling around in the center of the rotunda's ellipsis, neither inside nor outside, in the exact spot where a halo of moonlight fell, light that I hadn't noticed before. They were handsome. She was tall, taller than her escort, sculptural, very dark. He was delicate, with fair skin, extremely careful with her, infinitely gentle. He would sometimes brush close to her, would place his cheek for an instant between her shoulder and neck. She would hold him close to her for a second, before the movement of the music and their feet separated them. Jürgen was also fascinated. He was watching the man and woman dance and murmured to me, "They're dancing the dance of betrayal," but I didn't understand what he meant by that. Did he recognize these people? It's a Yugoslav or Hungarian dance, the dance of betrayal, Alma explained. A dance of truth, of divination. By dancing, you discover what the other was hiding from you. There is nothing to conceal anymore. Everything comes out in the open. Everything is forgiven, without anything having to be confessed. That's the beauty of the dance of betrayal. The couple glistened as if they were both wearing silvery lame, but were emerging from lustral water. The moon purified them of all lies. Alma was unstoppable. The dance of betrayal protects you from the shame of confession. It's a dance you must dance during times of change, during difficult times. The man and woman were dancing the dance of betrayal before my eyes. There was more than one secret between them. They were holding each other close, rolling around from shadow to light. I thought of Paul and Maya, of Maya's body. I imagined their own dance of betrayal. Schinkel's Berlin was mingled with ours, wild and uncertain. I could sense, see, glimpse the truth, a secret rising up between my father and my mother. It was I who had to dance the dance of betrayal. There was a river, a rock, an island, between my mother and me. The couple stopped dancing. They were standing motionless, facing each other. Jürgen Thiele called me by my first name. Irina, Irina, you were dozing off. And I opened my eyes, ashamed of having fallen asleep at table, ashamed I was in front of them. Thank you so much.